Back in April, I decided to give my brand, the Honey Mustard Club, a makeover. I went through a long 5-month thought process of finding an art style I liked for my art products. And now we're finally going to continue with our business makeover by hopefully settling on some new branding and creating some brand guidelines. Truthfully, this has been at the back of my brain for a long time, but I haven't taken a lot of actions towards this, and now that we're nearing the end of the year, I'm starting to panic, because I really want to make some progress with this business refresh so that it's ready to go into next year. So the first thing we're going to do to kickstart this process is just look at everything I made in the last video, all of the brainstorms as well as the mood boards that I made. But I did want to check in to just talk about how I've been feeling. I think I've realized that I'm finding it really difficult to make the Honey Mustard Club a priority right now. Out of all of the things that I'm focusing on this year, it has the least going for it. It's like Abracadabra, YouTube videos, and Honey Mustard Club. And that is also the order that I'm prioritizing things in. Even just having the first two takes up a lot of my time because there's not much happening with it. It's not really like I'm disappointing anyone except myself. I feel a bit frustrated because it is coming towards the end of the year. It just feels like nothing's really happened with it yet. So we want to move on with it. This first one is all the words that I wanted to encompass, or like the ideas I wanted to encompass with this brand. Magical, fantasy-esque here. Moving towards the right side, it goes more into childlike wonder, awe, and growth, reflection, insight. It goes towards romanticism, comfort, cozy. It turns into more like stepping into the unknown and exploring. And then finally on this side, adventuring, folklore, mythology, and to connect it back up to fantasy, world building, and being immersed. I still feel good about all of these words, so that's a good sign. And also, just for context, I haven't looked at these since I made the video. I tried rewatching that video, but I couldn't get a minute in. I was like, I can't do this. I can't watch my old videos. It just feels weird. So many ideas for products. I've got this section down here that just says packaging. It says stats, TCG, game inventory, and it's kind of mimicking like a TCG card or kind of like a pop-up in a game where it says like you received this item with like the stats and everything, which I think is really cute. So this little one right here. It looks like I did a few more brainstorms. I don't know if I shared these in the video or not. This one is customizable designs. On the back it says wooden items because I do have a laser engraver that I want to eventually use. Next I've got sticker sheets, journaling, standee, keychains, accessories. So we kind of analyzed my current art from 2020 to 2025, and I talked about what I liked, what I didn't like, and common motifs I found in the art. And then I had a few mood boards and folders of art that I had saved, of inspiration pieces from different artists. I went through them and kind of had like a look at what was similar amongst each of them. I wrote down what is similar about the art I like as well as the art that I make. And down here I wrote to work on, which is like things I like, but I don't really have this in my art yet. Since we are talking about branding, I wanted to show what the current branding for the Honey Mustard Club is. So for example, this page is just about the name and ideas for logos. This is the business card format that I wanted, a little portrait version of myself. This is a stamp that I ordered, which I still have. So this is the first one, and as you can see it's double-sided. I have the Honey Mustard Club on this side, and then on this side I've got Abracadabra. I didn't want to make two completely separate business cards. I made them look like TCG cards, or that was the idea anyway, with this little border and then like little icons here, stats here, and I carried that across. This is my current business card, kind of. This is a faulty batch. They cut off the sides. So I didn't end up using these, but I have like 200 of them and that I don't know what to do with. Different logos. I did keep honey mustard jar from the first one. These are also completely different. This is what the Etsy store looks like at the moment. The only real bits of branding are the top here and the logo, and I guess you could say the way I take my photos. This is the first logo that I had. I can't believe I was like happy with this because it's so ugly. I was very new to digital art. It's not very legible. A few years later I changed it to this. Obviously the colors are a lot better. It's a little bit more legible. Still the same concept, so putting them side by side. It's basically just a redraw. In 2025, when I tried to do another rebranding and failed, so earlier this year, because it is still 2025, I remade the logo, and the biggest change is that I put the words honey mustard in the emblem here because people were reading this as the club. They weren't reading like the honey mustard bit here, which is quite hard to read, especially when it's on like a small sticker. I think I made this in 2022. The bit where it says the club, that's handwritten, so that wasn't a font, whereas this one is just like a typeface that I manipulated and put into a circle. I think this one feels cleaner, kind of more like a cozy game kind of vibe. This one, obviously I was trying to lean into more like the magical fantasy aspect of it. The way I feel about both of them. Going into this video, I was sure that I hated it, but I think there's like a fondness there. I think it will be challenging for me to change this logo. I feel like I've grown attached to the concept of the honey mustard jar being part of the icon, but I don't really know if I like that or not. The reason why it has this wooden looking texture in the background, because the idea was to build a whole like a fantasy world, and the idea was that this club, or I guess more like a guild, was kind of like a safe haven for adventurers to seek shelter. So I wanted it to be like a tavern, an inn that was welcoming. This is also the little slideshow I made, the kind of art style I want the Honey Mustard Club to have and inspiration for it. So I wrote down themes and motifs. We've got nature, characters, game aesthetics, countryside, fantasy and medieval, and interesting compositions. If you want to know more about all of this stuff, you can see that video that I made. Art style, the type of lines I'd like, the type of shapes, the type of shading, as well as characters and details. Inspiration for the kind of art style that I like. I've got some color palette ideas, although I don't think I'm going to stick to these. But ideas and inspiration, different types of compositions and framing. And that's about it for that one. So the reason I'm going through this, even though we're not talking about art style today, is that I think it's still important to keep in mind what I want the brand to be as a whole. Obviously that's important to think about when I'm creating my branding. I also want to go through what I call my business / artist crushes. I have a very, very long list, but in particular, these are the ones that I feel like I really love their branding at the moment. The Jewel State of Mind. She's also one of my artist friends, really lovely. I love the way that she packages her orders. It's so pretty. The calligraphy, the wax seals. I love that there's like a little ribbon here. Then I have the Calico Factory. It's so cohesive, and I believe they mainly do art that's based around like traveling, and the whole aesthetic is kind of also like a postal vibe, but completely different to Jewel's. A lot of neutrals and browns. They always use this kind of font as well. Similar color palettes in their work, I feel like. And then I've got Amanda Hersman, which I mentioned in my last video. Her branding is so nice, and what I love about it is that her page is so like art centric, and obviously that makes sense because she's an artist, but personally I feel like the only thing that ties my Instagram feed together is the fact that everything is kind of like brown. Like all my art I feel like looks really different, whereas her art style is so consistent, and like regardless of if she's posting the actual artwork or like a photo, it just all blends in together really nice. And now I've got some romanticy kind of businesses and brands. The thing is that I don't even read anymore. I just really like the aesthetic. This is the Quirky Cup Collective, and I do have one of their iPad cases. It might be for Kindles, but I put my iPad in it and it's so gorgeous. But this is their website. I love how magical and luxurious everything looks, and there's like a lot of star imagery. Clearly the brand color is this sort of fuchsia color up here they're using for their banner. And then I've also got Enchanted Oddities. As you can see, their brand colors are more like sage green, and also this very, I don't know, is that mauve? Despite being an artist, I feel like I don't know color names. You can tell that they use like the same adjustments or filters for all the photos, and looking at it I can see there's a lot of arch shapes. Oh my goodness, look at the Instagram feed, so gorgeous. Finally, I've got the enamel library. You can see there's definitely a library type of aesthetic, like the font of these titles and the background as if they were on a library card, and the product photos again, super gorgeous, feels warmer. So I also discovered recently that they do this cool thing where they put their pins on like really interesting backings. So this one is like a boarding pass, which I absolutely love. I would also keep this backing card if I bought this, you know, and I think that really speaks to strong and interesting brand. Before we move on to the next part of the process, I do want to mention that I've spent a lot of time building up a library of references and inspiration for this project. This isn't just the culmination of 1 or 2 afternoons. Not all of it can be documented here, as it's years and years worth of ideas and research that I've either purposely looked for or come across while browsing the internet, visiting events, or immersing in media. In general, I spend a lot of time looking into new ideas and products, then save them either literally on a Pinterest board, a Notion page, social media collection, or just in the back of my brain for later. Anything that inspires me is bookmarked. For this part of the process, I'm looking up search terms on Etsy that I think relate to the products I want to sell, as well as looking at similar businesses that already sell these things. I want to know the type of branding and vibe they have and what they have in common too. You could call this competitor research, but I personally think it's more like brand research. If you want to know more about what I want to sell, then but I always feel a bit icky using these kinds of terms, especially when I admire these businesses and draw so much creative inspiration from them too. I'm also looking at artists that I adore. I can see that a few things make up distinct branding. The art itself may be a strong focus, like those with consistent and cohesive art styles, the use of similar props and color grading in photos and social media, and of course things like using similar typefaces or color palettes across everything. So you might think, if I already have an idea about what branding is and I've already done so much research, why has it taken me so long to make any progress with the Honey Mustard Club? Why is it last priority? Truthfully, this brand has always faced a lot of challenges and resistance. I started it during the pandemic, and for about a year I was really happy drawing new designs, experimenting with new products, and packing orders. Soon after that, a lot of things in my personal life occurred and I had to close the shop. After everything was kind of settled again, I wanted to focus more on running an artist-based store, which is when I rebranded my online art persona to Abracadeborah, and that became my main focus outside of my job. Apart from that, the Honey Mustard Club has been through multiple rebrands and pulled to many different directions, all for me to feel unsatisfied and discontent with everything I had created. Trying so many times, putting in so much mental and creative effort, time, and physical supplies into this, only for it to fail each instance, needless to say, has really stung and been super discouraging. So it's not really any wonder why I feel this immense pressure and fear of failure whenever I make progress with this project. Unfortunately, I'm just too stubborn to give up on it, and instead we're moving really, really slowly, hopefully forward. I've always really loved when small businesses lean into a theme. For example, I've seen artists market their stores with aesthetics like cafes, fish markets, video games, and bakeries. Although the Honey Mustard Club was initially going to be based within the fantasy aesthetic, and I had thought about video game or TCG aesthetics, I still wanted to see what ideas I could come up with that were different. As I went along, I realized there were a lot of crossovers among the different ideas I had. Honestly, I think I was getting a bit confused imagining how the brand would look amongst all the different concepts, and then I thought, but wait, isn't this more like packaging than branding? Or I guess they go hand in hand, but packaging is more likely to change depending on products, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. Regardless, I started feeling a bit silly. This is a problem I've had in the past as well, when I've brainstormed a little too hard and the main idea gets lost even before any action has been taken. I didn't want this to happen again, so I had to take a break after this. After reflecting a bit, I realized there were a few options. None of these ideas had to go to waste. I could explore them in Abracadeborah in the future. There wasn't anything stopping me from doing that. I could explore these concepts in the future within the Honey Mustard Club, either by keeping the branding very minimal and timeless. I could start with fantasy-themed products and branding, and then move on to another genre later. But that might confuse my audience, and honestly, it wasn't really what I wanted. Or I could maybe add a fantasy lens to all the ideas later. The concepts wouldn't be exactly the same, but maybe that was okay. In the end, I decided I didn't need a theme anyway. It would just overcomplicate things as it did in the past. So although this was a fun activity, it's definitely an idea I'll store for the future. So yesterday after I took a break, I decided to make some mood boards. I don't really know if these will be relevant to the process, but I mean that's what this video is about, kind of just exploring to see what works and what doesn't work. I kind of got like all these images off Pinterest and just put them together because I thought that it might give me a bit more direction into what I want the branding to be, even if I don't use this concept anymore. And then I have another mood board here, products from other brands and businesses that I feel kind of have like a similar vibe, or like things that I'd also want to sell. So they all definitely have like something in common. I think even a few of these photos look like they came from the same store, but each photo is from a different store. And that also tells me that when customers search for a specific item, they are expecting a specific vibe or style as well, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, I want the store to also fit this vibe, but also have one or two unique things about it. After that, I went through a bunch of fonts on Kittle. You can like choose all of the fonts they have. There is so many. me, and I picked out a few that stood out to me. I don't really know what this script family is called, but it's kind of got a bit of like a swirly kind of vibe to it. Some of these letters have like little swoops, a little bit whimsical without doing too much, I think. I've also got them in different cases just to see which one I like more. And then for this one I looked up Unshul or Unseal fonts. I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm so sorry. There were 3 that stood out to me, which were these 3. Thirdly, I have this page which is kind of the serif fonts that I like. These 2 are the most different, little diamonds in the spaces of the letters, which is very cute. And then from those 3 pages I narrowed it down to some of the ones I like. So these are all the same font, different style and different capitalization. And then these 3 are the same font. This one is different, that one's different, and I have my Abracadabra fonts here just because I want to see how it sits next to it. I quite like black letter fonts, but I decided to go against it for the Honey Mustard Club just so that there is some sort of point of differentiation. From here I was feeling kind of stuck, so I asked my partner what he thought. He made a really good point. As I was showing him the other brands from the second mood board that I made with all the products, he was saying how a lot of them have names that kind of allude or like indicate what they sell, whereas the Honey Mustard Club is such an abstract name because it's like hard to tell what it is just from the name. He suggested that the font should tie it back to the whole like fantasy aesthetic. His 2 choices were these 2. He felt like these were the most fantasy-esque kind of fonts. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards this. I feel like this is a little bit too romantic-y still for me. I don't know if I love it or not. I think I'm just more drawn to like the cliche fantasy-esque script. Even though this was classed as Unseal, I do feel like it has elements of like black letter in it too, so maybe that's also why I like this. But what I don't love about this is that the lowercase h, this looks like a B, and the uppercase h, I feel like from far away it looks like an R instead of a H. Anyway, what's cool about Kittl is that it can also do like vector graphics. You can click on this text, right click, and then there'll be a button that says outline text. You can like individually click the letters. You can change the points. Like if I want to grab this, I can just move this around, change it completely. Take all of these, delete it, so it's just shorter, so it doesn't look too much like an R. But yeah, you can like manipulate all of the points. Probably do this outside of recording because I don't really want that added pressure of the camera. A lot of this process has been a lot more private than I initially thought. I do feel like at this point the process is kind of like make a bunch of things, leave it for like a little while and see how I feel about it. Think about it a lot when I'm not looking at it. I feel that's important too, like to just take a break from it, see how I feel about it when I'm away from all of the visuals and everything, and then come back, see how I feel about it with fresh eyes. Anyway, so I said that I really liked these 2 fonts. I don't know, I decided to take one more look through the fonts, and maybe it's just because I didn't feel completely happy with this, and I'm really glad I did. And it is this specific font right here that I ended up settling on. This is it with the capitalization, but I don't quite like that. I like how it looks all lowercase. This is the previous font I had, and then this is the new one. Feels a lot friendlier and rounder, and it also looks much more Unseal. This one looks a bit more black letter, so it feels a step away from Abracadabra. I don't know, when I saw this one I was like, this is the one I want. Whereas this one I still had a bit of reservations about. Still felt like the H looked like a B in this font, so I experimented and took away the little bit that was like curling into here, but I didn't quite like that, so I tried again. I left like a little bit of the tail here. So this is the original one, this is my first attempt, and then this is the final one that we have for the H. I think I also changed the spacing quite a bit. I thought it might look really cool if the writing was slanted, but I also added little sparkles here. I showed my partner and he didn't really like the Y in honey. He felt that it looked backwards, and so I tried to do a few modifications of that. For this one I just took away the little notch that was there. I made this just one line. I made a little tail here, and then I tried doing it the other way, but it looked a bit off. I tried adding a tail to this one too, and it still just looked kind of off, and this is what I ended up with instead. I think this Y is a lot cuter. I also added a little star in honey. Red one is the final iteration. It's a bit hard to tell, but to be honest, this Y doesn't really follow the rules of the rest of the font. Where the end of this hits, I don't know the terms for the script or like the fonts, but basically like the bottom part of here I feel like should hit the same as here, so it should be lower. But I tried doing that and I didn't like it. I felt like the proportions made it look off, so I just kept it a little bit higher. And then I wanted to do a monogrammed logo, so this one's a completely different font that I just wanted to try, but I felt like it looked too different. This is the capital letters from this font. I went back to the lowercase. I added the slant again, replaced the H, tried to stretch it out. It started looking a little bit too black letter. I wanted the stars to also be like a consistent thing. Here I am just trying to change the height of the letters, so this one is a little bit like arched, this one is arched going down, this one's arched going up, and the star placement is different. This is the one I decided on. I'm quite happy with this. I also just made like a long version as opposed to the square or circle version of it. I don't know, I had a lot of fun doing this and just seeing different ways that I could transform the logo. So this is my first attempt. The base font without any alterations. In this one it goes the Honey Mustard Club this way, but I felt like the direction of the reading was a bit weird. Like I feel like people would read it like Honey Mustard Club the. I decided to do this instead, and it says the Honey Mustard Club, and then this is the one with the alterations of the letters. It's like a subtle difference, but these ones look like a bit more like, I don't know, italicized. So I also explored some colors, which was honestly, it's been the most difficult one. I don't know why. For Abracadabra, I didn't really choose any brand colors. These are just the colors that pop up on my website and my table display. This side is kind of what I felt the Honey Mustard Club brand colors were. I guess the greens, not really. I just took these colors from the logo. I felt like they were a little bit similar and I wasn't sure if I wanted that or not. So I played with a lot of different palettes. Here are some of them. I did look into what goes into making a brand color palette, but I found it so difficult. I don't even know if my final choice will be my final choice. Like I'm sure I'll tweak it down the road at some point. I was going with the whole idea of like red, orange, yellow, green and brown. Decided to add a blue in there. I quite liked this color palette down here, but it didn't really feel right. Taking out the red, a total wild card. I just felt like, oh, what if I just choose like add a purple in there? I think it's cute once again, but it doesn't feel right for my brand. And then I ended up with this where I tried to add it onto the logos and stuff. I quite like all of these colors. I was having trouble figuring out what I wanted to be the primary colors and secondary colors and accent colors and stuff. So I decided to try and make some color palettes. The size of the color is supposed to be how often it's used. So for example, these would be the primary colors, these would be the secondary colors, and these would be the neutrals, and then this would be the accent color. I played with that a little bit. It still didn't feel right. Also, the color combination of these 5 colors specifically reminded me of nachos or something. Don't get me wrong, love nachos, it's my favorite food. It's not what I want to think of. That is also why I wanted the blue as an accent color. Collated a bunch of color palettes from other brands in similar genres. So I have 2 pages of that. So on this side, it's their profile picture and banner from Etsy, and if they have a website, I also added like clips of that and just color picked it to come up with a palette. So yeah, I think it is quite a diverse range. In fact, I would even say this color might be like more like a wood color. There we go. And then I did a second page on here. These ones were leaning more towards green neutrals. I decided I liked the blue as a secondary color because I feel like it provides a lot of contrast against orange and yellow hues. I've still got this green in here, but I think I'm going to use it more sparingly. These will be my neutrals. I literally just decided to sketch out a few logo concepts. I wasn't going to. I thought maybe I'd be fine just having a written logo, but I got really attached to this latest Honey Mustard Club logo, so I decided, okay, maybe I do need to do like a redraw or something of it. Okay, firstly, I tried to do a few sketches, didn't like any of them, so we move on. I found out that the mustard plant has flowers, so I decided to draw them. I think this is cute, but it doesn't feel exactly what I want, but I still like it. I don't know, I'm so conflicted right now. In the case of this, it does feel more like the blue and the yellow are the primary colors, which I also don't have a problem with. Decided maybe what if I add the jar back in. So we have this. It's basically a honey jar, and then there's just mustard flowers on the top. They're just kind of sitting on the top. They're not really like in the jar or anything. I liked this one so much that I made another one in a different color scheme. It's just kind of like the background and the writing that's different, but I thought it would be a little bit closer to this original one here. Finally, I decided to just do the jar thing again and add the flower as a logo in the middle of the jar. A logo in a logo. 4 of them that I really like, and I don't know what to do with that. I was talking to my partner about it, and he was saying like, you know, maybe I can just use all 4 of them. Like, what is really stopping me from doing that? I don't know if it's really like a good business practice, but his opinion was that as long as the outside writing was consistent, it didn't really matter too much. He felt like it would still be recognizable as long as the text was there. I don't necessarily think he's wrong. I feel like these all look like they belong together anyway. So that is what I might do. I might just keep all of these as variations. But yeah, this was an important step too, because even just looking at this now, I feel like the blue that I've chosen is not bright enough. The colors on my iPad look so different from the colors on the laptop screen, and I'm sure that they'll look different again when I get them printed, so that's also something to consider. So I'm gonna just neaten this up now, and then we can move on, and hopefully we'll finish this project by the end of the day. As you watched me draw on my iPad, I wanted to chat a bit more about what's been going on in my head regarding this entire process. In one of my last videos, someone asked me what the Honey Mustard Club means, and it's a name I made up when I was in a very different phase of my life. It's made up of 3 different parts. My name Deborah means bee, and bees make honey, so honey represents my work. I took mustard from the parable of the mustard tree. In this case, I interpreted it as growth, potential, and also belief. I added club because I wanted a noun and for it to sound more inclusive, like a physical place. I don't think I choose this name again, but it has enough sentimental value to me that I don't want to change it, and it's also super hard for me to choose names. I don't really want to go through that process again. When I started looking at fonts, I initially wanted to choose typography for my branding, but ended up making logos instead. I'm kind of glad this happened because I thought the logo would be the most difficult part, but surprisingly I feel very confident about the word marks and monograms I created. On the contrary, it's been very difficult for me to come up with an icon or like pictorial sort of logo. And even now I'm still feeling unsure about these ones. Here I've mainly drawn mustard flowers and jars of honey, but other ideas I had for the picture part of the logos were seedlings or saplings, bees, beehives, mustard trees, and even a bear at one point. All of my previous logos were supposed to look like crests or tavern signs, but since I decided I didn't want to lean into a theme right now, I decided not to do this. Didn't really work a long time on these, so they're not perfect, which is kind of interesting. I feel like this whole process has been about me wanting everything to be perfect, and then as I get to the logo, which is one of the most important things, I just have lost that perfectionism for some reason. I think I'm quite happy with these. I tried adding an outline to them, but I didn't like the way it looked, and here is the cleaned up version of it. I don't know, for my purposes right now, I feel pretty happy. So we're gonna move on to choosing some fonts. Why am I kind of vibing with this now? The last step of this process is putting everything together in one place. I'm using Kittl, who is also the sponsor of this video, to create a document of brand guidelines that I can always refer back to when creating for my brand. If this is something you'd also like to do and you're not sure where to begin, Kittl actually has so many templates you can choose from and customize. However, I'm going to start with a blank artboard. The first thing I'm doing is adding my chosen fonts and colors into my personal brand kit. This means I can easily reference these styles in any of my projects simply by going to the brand kit section, and I can click on these items to make them appear on my artboard immediately. I know this will save me so much time on my future projects. Something I love about Kittl is the way that you can create multiple artboards all in one project. You can literally move them, duplicate them, resize them, and view them in any way that you want, which is super convenient for a project like this with multiple sections. Being able to see the big picture is so important to me to ensure that everything stays consistent and cohesive, especially when my brain likes to jump around from one thing to the other. Personally, I also really like the way that Kittl handles colors. You can see literally every color in your project and change them simply by clicking the appropriate square and selecting a new color. Kittl will automatically change every instance of that color to the new one you selected, which saves so much time. No need to select and change the color of every asset individually. I love that the hex codes are displayed next to the colors as well. You don't need to do any extra clicking to find them. Another feature I use is the alignment tool. All you have to do is select the objects you want aligned and then click on the specific alignment you'd like. All of the objects will be aligned and you don't have to individually move them or add guides to make sure they look neat. It might seem like a small thing, but personally I feel this goes a long way into making something look professional. It's all of these small details that Kittle pays attention to that makes it feel like Kittle was made for designers and small businesses. Every time I use Kittle, I'm finding new features that can benefit me, and if you're interested in trying it out for free, you can use my link in the description below. I take advantage of the current Black Friday offers that's happening right now as well. All users, including new, existing and returning users, can get 25% off annual Kittle Pro and Expert plans with the code BF2025. Thank you so much Kittle for sponsoring this video and saving me so much time in my small business workflow. We are finally finished with this document and I am so excited to share it with you. The Honey Mustard Club 2025 Style and Brand Guide by Abracadeborah. First up we have brand vision and values. I'm not gonna lie, I just kind of wrote a bunch of words here. I don't even know what I was saying for a lot of these because my brain was so fried by the time I wrote this. The first one we have is warmth. Basically I want the Honey Mustard Club to exude warmth like immediately, and that's done through like the color palettes, inclusive and safe language, and obviously the kind of art that I want to make. Secondly, immersion is very important to me for this brand. When I first started it, this was one of like the core things. I just wanted it to be like an immersive fictional world, which is why I made a storyline for it and a choose your own adventure type of website. I don't know if I'm going to keep that, but I think that storytelling through design, branding, packaging, basically through like every aspect of it is important to me. Third, I wrote expression. I wouldn't say it's new, but it is something that I want to emphasize more, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. Basically, I want the audience or the customers of the Honey Mustard Club to be able to use the products as an outward expression of themselves and showcase, you know, their aesthetic, interests, their personality, which is of course very common with a lot of art businesses, but I also want to include items that are more interactive or like customizable. Fourthly, childlike wonder is just something that I want to evoke. Reality can often be quite discouraging, and I think it's important to be able to appreciate the everyday and just have a feeling of awe and discovery. Once again, I want to do this through the art style, not just that, but the art subject matter and the themes that are portrayed in the art. I put in the product mood board that I made earlier just as a reference as well. Here are the main color palettes. I've already spoken about this earlier. I've got their hex codes, and then I've got the use, and I've kind of got like a name or meaning behind the color. I think I might have a warm filter on this as well, so it looks a little bit different on here. But I've also added different colorways for the logos, which I think are cute. Next I've got typography, my primary font, all of the glyphs that are available for this font, and the use down here. My secondary font, this is more for like the body text, subtitles, and this is the different kind of styles it comes in as well. I didn't put all the glyphs here, just the letters and the numbers because there were a lot. Another secondary font, since I couldn't decide between the two. This one is more extensive. As you can see, there is a lot more styles, which I didn't even realize until the end, but it's basically for if the other font is kind of lacking in terms of like readability, or there's not enough text styles. For example, if I need to italicize something, the other font doesn't have italics. This one also includes a lot more characters and glyphs. So here's an example of the typography. I've got 4 different styles of logos. This is my primary logo type / word mark, and it's basically for circle and square uses, as well as like, you know, just general use, but especially for like social media profile pictures and stuff. Next I've got this rectangular shaped one, and it's just an alternate logo type or word mark if the circle or square one isn't really adequate. Third, I've got a monogram or letter mark, which I want to use for watermarks for like product photos. Fourth, I've got this like text emblem, which I'm using in combination with pictorial logos to create like a combination. And this is actually my last slide, but it is the logos and icons that I was drawing on my iPad. I'm still quite undecided about this. This is the last thing that I'm not feeling 100% on just yet. I do like this for now, but I want to see how I feel about this month or so. But while I was drawing this, I did feel like I didn't need to put too much pressure on myself. So I'm happy with this for now. It ends quite abruptly, but the idea is that I will be adding more pages to this in the future. This is everything I've made in this video, and I feel really happy with it all. I'm really excited about the future of this brand, and there is still so much to do, so definitely stay tuned.